We have some Wednesday BSing to do. No, I'm just kidding. This is actually going to be full of information for you guys if you guys are into aquarium keeping. But yeah, it is rare for me to be on here for a Wednesday, but had some time, and I feel like Friday Night Live Q&As just don't last long enough. Usually there's so many questions still left at the end to get to, so I figured I'll make myself a little more available when I can. I can't always, I'm trying my best to, but I figured we'll do another kind of like Q&A for you guys who aren't able to make it to the Friday Night Live Q&As. So welcome. I'm a little out of breath. Just got done doing a quick little workout before I hopped on here. Just get that blood flowing and going, even though it's been a long day already and things done. But hello everybody in the chat, glad to see y'all in here. Go ahead and jump into live chat. Great to see all these great names in here that I've seen for so long. You guys are the best. Really do appreciate you all and for being here, and really can never thank you all enough. But we'll have a video out for you guys tomorrow. I know a lot of you guys were wanting an update video on the fry, the 50-gallon lowboy, the zoom heads, on the ones that I did that catching and raising fry video. And it's been a little while, so I figured I'd update you guys on that and show it to you, because I will eventually probably go ahead and reset them. I don't know when, because I've got so much on my to-do list. It's just been crazy. But I've also been wanting to try to spend more time with my son too, and it's a lot to balance, all that kind of stuff. But you guys know how it is, some of you guys. But anyways, if you guys have questions, this is a good place to ask your questions. I love to answer questions, especially since I do things a lot differently than most fish keepers. And I always have kind of been frontiering quite a few things within this hobby. And of course, if I do not know the answer to something, we've got an amazing community here that can help you with your questions as well, because there's so much in this hobby. It's so hard for everybody to know everything. And it can be a bit intimidating, but we do try to simplify things here, definitely. Because the easier we can make it for you to keep your aquarium, the better it will be for you and everybody in the hobby and humanity. Because it does bring a peace, it does bring us into the person, into the house, as a good feng shui. Chris Resecker, 9-month gold member, LRB in the house. Well, Chris Resecker in the house. Glad to see you in here, brother. Thank you so much for this awesome continued support. Let's see. I am not seeing any questions thus far, but if you do have a question, always helps to throw a question mark behind it. Oh, there it is. Supreme Leader Army. Always good to see you in here, leader. Says, I've got a sick rainbow female with dropsy. I put her in a pail for 20 minutes with Epsom salt, but it didn't work. Recommend anything. So dropsy came up just the other day. I personally, sometimes dropsy will come and go. I've seen it come and go naturally. Sometimes you can make things worse by stressing them out too much and or treating them with harsh chemicals. But it is good that you took her away from the other system, because if it's like something like an internal parasite or something that can transfer over, if she dies and says get eaten later or something, and then that passes and so on and so forth, then it is good that you at least took her out, and hopefully that'll cut it off there if it is a situation. Dropsy's a really tough one. I don't know if anybody's got any tricks in the books up their sleeves in the chat, but I personally do not have anything for dropsy besides like letting nature take its course, because I have seen them come through it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's really about keeping that immunity strong for them. And sometimes I think there's certain genetic things that can happen to fish as well that can get blamed for other diseases. Because you got to think about it, like as a test group. So say you've got 100 fish, and just like any animal, you got 100 of them. They're not all going to be 100% healthy. Matter of fact, you'll have like 100 eggs, and you may only end up with like say 8% of them. And then say some of those have a genetic problem. Then some other ones have immunity problems. And things can happen with fish that often get blamed for like parasites. We blame parasites for everything for a lot of fish illnesses, when there are other types of illnesses that just happen genetically as well. And that's something to think about and take into consideration with keeping fish, because when you bomb your tank with medication, you start killing your beneficial bacteria and stuff. And if you're one of those people who like to keep it sterile, this will become a really, really bad battle for you. If you're keeping like more of a natural type tank where you've got a lot of beneficial bacteria, then the system can kind of take it to an extent, but it does still do its damage. So just be careful with meds. Salt's not a bad way to go, because it's safe. It's not a harsh chemical or anything. It's really natural. So salt is definitely not a bad choice. But all right, I hope that helps people look at keeping aquariums a little different. Frogs Fishing More says safest way to raise pH when it's only 6. So 6 is really acidic. And I would get something where you have like calcium within the tank. That way it can dissolve naturally. And also it would ensure that there would always be some source of calcium and mineralization within that tank. And it's all up to you, because 6 pH, that can actually play a different role on what you're keeping as well. So in really acidic water like 6 pH, funguses, beneficial bacteria, other bacteria, all kinds of stuff does not grow in acidic conditions. That's why you can use catappa leaves and peat moss, sphagnum moss, and other things to help with certain fish and breeding, to where they don't have fungal issues or bacterial issues or anything like that. But if you did want to raise it, like I've got this lime rock, works really good. I know Carib Sea has a crushed coral you could use, works really good if you want to raise it. Besides that, you could get like GH boosters in powder form. I would never buy anything in the liquid form, because you're just literally buying a washed down solution of it, when you can get like a pound bag for $8 of GH booster. I get mine off Nilo CG. That's another way you can add mineralization. And then you do want to raise it slowly. You don't want to go from like 6 pH to like way up the board, which, I mean, it's hard to do anyways, because the mineralization still has to break down within that acidity. But you do have to, like, fish will be all right with that gradual raise or lowering. It's when you take a fish from one extreme to the other that you can have problems with too. So of course, dose as you go by. I don't know how big of a tank you got, but it's always better to take your time with an aquarium, and with anything, part of it, do little by little, bits by bits. And then you'll fine tune it, and then you'll be like, oh, this is easy. I found where I need to be. That's what a lot of it is. It's just finding your fine tuning. You go through those trials and errors and tribulations with aquariums, and he teaches all kinds of stuff through that journey. So I mean, really don't be afraid of taking that journey with these aquariums as well. And once you do learn those fine-tuning things, it really becomes enjoyable. Michael Marion says, looking at my 15 red cherry shrimp I just ordered from you, any recommendations? So rock piles are really good for them. Give them somewhere safe and comfortable that won't get disturbed when you're doing your water changes and stuff. That'll make them feel really comfortable, make them feel like they got a safe space. Besides that, I mean, I feed mine every day. They do eat quite a bit. Driftwood's always good to add into a shrimp tank too, because or even leaf litter, because it becomes a always food source too. And that lime crushed coral rock can help too. Also with those shrimp, always good to contrast them to a black substrate with those red cherries, and then with the yellows, and then oranges too. Then the light substrates you want to do more with like your greens and your blues and your blacks. Okay, this is a Q&A. This is a Q&A. I figured, I mean, what else am I going to do? I'm not going to talk about movies because I don't really watch movies. Everything I do with fish, I don't know what else to talk about besides things I can't talk about on here. So it's either I talk about things I can't talk about on YouTube without getting myself into trouble, or we can do Q&A for fish, because I might as well offer my time for you guys when I've got the opportunity. Plus, I mean, it helps with my watch time. I enjoy hanging out with you guys. It is awesome. I love answering your guys' questions. I actually really, really do enjoy answering questions. It's fun for me. Henry Figueroa says, how do you know what would, because I can also learn too. I've learned a great amount. Well, I'll get back to you, Henry, but I have learned a great amount. I got to quit moving my hands around because I still haven't learned not to move my hands so the internet doesn't go bad. But anyways, I have learned a great amount from you guys as well as teaching you guys, because the best way to learn is to teach as well. And I've learned a plethora of stuff, just not only with aquariums, but just people's society systems, all kinds of stuff within just being a YouTuber, editor, all kinds of things that come into being my being, what I've been being, and all the extension from it. So it's pretty wild. Anyways, Henry Figueroa says, how do you know what woods you can use in your yard for driftwoods? So that's a good question. You want to kind of stay away from the sappy stuff. You could probably use it all, honestly. There's probably really not a bad one you can't use. Now, whether it'll float or not, that can make a big difference. So your hardwood's definitely gonna sink better than, say, your softwoods. But you can always, it's pretty easy to drill through a piece of tile or ceramic, or even the bottom of a flower pot, and drill a hole. Well, heck, some of them have a hole in them already, but get you a screw or a bolt, screw that into your wood. Then you've got a nice bottom piece that'll help weigh down that softer piece. If you say you found that one piece you can't live without, you're like, oh man, but it's just gonna float forever, you can always tack a base to it, and then you can bury that base with substrate and whatnot, and then boom, bada bing, bada boom. I usually let the sun take care of business for a while, dry it out. It really doesn't matter if it's fresh or not. I don't think it would make much difference, because I've chopped off bushes and tree branches and stuff like that and stuck them in breeding ponds and tubs and stuff with no issue. And I mean, pine needles, pine cones. Excuse me, I just mealed down a bunch of tacos before hopping on here because, proper preparation. And tacos, man. Taco Thursday, right? But I hope that helps you with your driftwood. Don't be scared with driftwood. Even if it gets that biofilm, a lot of driftwoods too, they'll get this like nasty white biofilm looking stuff. Get you some guppies or a molly or a platy, or if you have one hanging around, throw one of them or a couple of them in there. They're gonna get fat. They're gonna breed for you. They love to eat that stuff. Fish love to eat that kind of stuff. So don't be scared of it. Mario Valesco says, hey Lucas, do you have a good source Medaka? So I've got an awesome line of blue Miyukis that I've been working for quite some time. I am working on some ones that I got from Japan. They're still little babies. I've got some black ones and some orange ones. Orange lines, still kind of throwing quite a bit of lames. I've got some red ones I'm still working on. So I'm working on my source alone, but as far as getting other Medakas and other sources, because it's going to be a while till I have any of these lines, but the ones I got from Japan was on eBay, and then I hit up like Aquabid and Really, I just Google. If you just Google what you're looking for, you never know what you'll stumble into, what arena for a fish. And if, you know, sometimes you really want that fish, there's been a lot of times where I haven't been scared to just do it, you know. But holy crap, there's a ton of questions in here. I'm going to try to rip through them real quick. Rich Rex, I got blue shrimp and they're turning brown or black. What can I do to stop it? Brown? Ooh, I don't know why they're turning brown for you, buddy. I don't think you got those from me. But that's another point. Where you get your shrimp can play a big difference on what starts breeding out of them. The brown that you're probably seeing is a wild type coming out of them. You can cull them out. The best thing to do is cull those out so they don't end up spreading their genes later down the line. And then the black ones, sometimes they can get so blue to where they look black. That, and if you put them on a dark substrate, they'll start getting more black and they will try to camouflage towards that black substrate to the point where they'll even have more black on the head, tails. They'll just start spotting themselves. Even if they look good before, they will change their color pretty quick to camouflage towards that. And black substrate can also trigger those wilds, them to revert back towards that. It's a camouflaging mechanism. Montage says dropsy tends to happen when tank is too clean. Used to happen me every time I set up a new tank or do a massive water change. I mean, I could see that from my recollection of you mentioning that too. Is that's a big point of why I don't do the meds is when you destroy those beneficial bacteria that is helping the whole rest of the community and everything else, it really does deter from just the whole health of your fish from if you have too sterile of an environment, not quite as developed. Can fish get diabetes? I mean, I don't know how much sugar gets into their tank, but they are sweet. Zoltan's Aquatic says, any tips on setting up a DIY filter for a 175 gallon pond tub? So if you want to do like a DIY filter, essentially most filters, that's just a pump running through some kind of storage. You can use the Sterile storage tubs with the tops, all that stuff. And you can literally make yourself a canister filter. If you look at my earlier videos of my heated outdoor pond systems, I broke down how I built a huge like sump DIY filter out of a big 55 gallon Sterile storage container. And then what I would do is that water would run back in through there, and you could get like the drawers, the Sterile drawer folders. So they're usually like 3 high or so many. And you can use that as your media run through. So you could either put like the bio balls in there or you could put foam in there. But I mean, I don't use them myself, but you know, if you really want to play around with that stuff, there's a lot of fun DIY and we can do. So this is something I got to say to you guys too, is they always say, oh, it's all been done under the sun. Well, I'm calling BS, because what a lot of people don't realize is with our materials and processings and systems really, and intellect and knowledge to what we've adapted and evolved to be as humanity, especially now, the power will always be within us people, because we'll always have so many different variables of trades and traits and attributes. But anyways, we are pioneering the front of a lot of ingenuity, innovative stuff. And even still within this hobby, I still see it, you know. Now, some of it gets swept underneath the rug here and there, or you just got to go mining for the information. Mining for the information is most of the job, actually. You learn how to be a good researcher. There's a lot you can really learn. But there's a lot of stuff adapting right now. Gary Stein, is it Stein or Steen? I always get that mixed up. But Gary, always great to see you around here. You've been an awesome support. And let's see, how long do dwarf neon rainbows take to grow from babies? Been feeding granules, dust, and banana worms, water worms, and vinegar eels regularly, but they're still tiny. So, yeah, dwarf neons, they take time. Any rainbow fish really takes time. That's why a lot of people don't breed out a whole lot of rainbows, because they are kind of more of a, they're not that quick buck, that quick fish that who got to get that dollar. And I don't know. For me, it ain't that dry. That money ain't the motivation. Like these fish, especially these rainbow fish, they need breeders and people to enjoy them, because oh my God. You guys ever seen some of these rare rainbow fish? Like I'm talking about the ones you don't see in your store or on a wholesale list. I'm talking about the collector kind of rainbow fish. Um, they're absolutely amazing. And then dwarf neons, they'll always be a timeless. They're one of my favorites. I've bred thousands of those things. And it's really cool when you get the Xanthic gold form of them too, which I don't even think that's ever, I mean, I've shown them on some of my YouTube videos, but I don't know if it's ever really been shown anywhere else. But they do take time. Rainbow fish take time. Water changes can definitely be your friend when it comes to growing out rainbow fish. So I gave Ohio Fish Rescue a bunch of plants, and they had rainbow fish eggs on them. He thought they were guppies. I thought they were guppies because of how fast and how big they grew. But since they were in such a huge water volume, they did grow really fast. So when it comes to breeding out rainbow fish, it does help to have water changes for them. And that's a big reason why I don't focus on breeding a lot of the rainbow fish now. Like, yeah, I'm breeding out the Glossolepis maculosus, but that's more like a, you got to get that fish out there so it doesn't disappear from the hobby because you're the only guy with them. Luckily now there's, I think, like 5 people with them now. Still not very many people with them in the scheme of things out of what, 400 million plus in this freaking nation, let alone the world. But so that was a had to breed fish. But once I get this system with my fry rack going, I want it to where I can do water changes. Big time on my babies. Just for growth, really. A lot of these other ones, like, you can keep them without water change. But I always say, like, it helps to have some fresh refresh. Be the rain for your tank, you know? Just don't overboard it. That's where people get in trouble. And this is people. Some people like to be extremists. Just balance, baby, balance. Joe MTL says, I started a no-filter tank. How long should I wait before adding snail, shrimp, or fish? Honestly, I mean, it kind of depends on how you set it up too. Do you have plants in there? Did you put sand in there? Rocks in there? What kind of water did you start with? Knowing your water is key. Major, major key. So there's one thing, and I was just going to make a whole video or just at least a short about it, but I don't know. I'll get it under my hat just because of the concept. I think it needs better spread than me just blurting it out on a live, but stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to see what I will be talking about water. But anyways, water is key to your start on that as well. So say if you're getting yours from well water, you're going to have a better start than if somebody's starting out of city water where they had to treat it to get stuff out of it. Then you're going to definitely want to take time. If well water, I pretty much did it the same day, you know. Like that stuff's already pretty much biologically sound coming from the earth. But if it's coming from the city, it's a whole different story. Like that stuff's been chemically altered. You're gonna have to let it naturalize, which can take up to a couple days. Snails you can add like pretty much same day, even in city water. After treated, I would maybe give it like 3 hours. Snails are pretty sturdy. Same, it depends on the fish as well. And if you add any kind of plants from an old tank and or beneficial bacteria or squeeze in some of the media from an old tank, that can help season it from day one. That's what I would do at conventions when setting up tanks. So I hope that helps you out. And it never hurts to take your time with it, add them as you go, but you don't have to wait like the crazy 3 weeks and stuff. And being a no filter tank, it's going to mature a lot quicker. Now, at the beginning of a lot of these no filter tanks, what will happen is you'll go through your first spat of, like, you'll get biofilm on the top of your water potentially, which is just usually the proteins coming up out of the new setup. Very common, very natural. A lot of fish will eat that stuff, nothing to worry about. And regardless if the fish eat it or not, over time it will settle down. The snails will end up eating it, or just microorganisms will eat that protein film over time as well. And then it'll just naturally clear itself up. So you'll have like this weird teenager phase with these no filter aquariums. And it'll be a little bit to get through, but it will naturally balance itself. And then it becomes so easy. I wish like the live, I got to quit using my hands because it'll get blurry, but I wish the live would really show around these tanks. If you guys didn't know, if I use my hands too much, like it turns into Lego, Lucas. Like the, I don't know, the camera or the processing can't keep up with it. But anyways, these tanks are actually super clear. I rarely ever have to scrape them. I rarely have to do anything besides pull hair algae out, and that's mostly because I overfeed with a lot of light. And not enough normal plants. And I mean, I've been adding tanks fast, and it's hard to split them up. And plus, when you don't know what plant you want to, that's half the battle, is figuring out what you want to put in the tanks. But all right, back to your questions anyways. I kind of got off track. What is that members comment? I can't see that, Thomas G. It has just like squeezed it down into something. I can't even push it to see it. But Thomas G, glad to see you in here. I wish I could read what that says. I don't know why YouTube's being like it is. Gary Stein says, is the dust from cuttlefish bone for fish shrimp been using on turtles with good results? Yeah, that's fine. Won't hurt them at all. They'll like to pick at that. Shrimp are scavengers by heart. It's what they love to do all day. Have your rope fish tied the knot? LOL. I mean, you know, I have seen them all kind of knotted up before. I'm pretty sure they may be doing some stuff in there, because they have decided they live like up underneath the algae and through the algae and kind of on top of the rocks. But did Thomas, did you make that? I don't know why that comment, now he's laughing in the comments. I don't know what is going on with the comment, Thomas. Diego Dominguez says, do you have some caridinas right now? And also, what's up with those saltwater ones from the last event travel? So I didn't get the saltwater ones from the last travel because I just knew better not to take that impulse buy, because I wasn't set up. The tanks aren't set up. I do have the tanks on a rack, so I've got to get sand in it. And then I want to go to the beach and get just some ocean water to put in there to just start the microbiology within the saltwater tank for a little bit, just kind of season it up for them, and then I will do the saltwater ones. But as far as caridinas, those are actually what was on the thumbnail of tonight's video, and those were the crystal reds. I have the tigers, the blue tigers, which mostly blondes in that line. I need a good line of orange eye blue tigers, which I'm waiting on from my buddy Muddy Waters, Jacob Waters, who actually won with his fancy shrimp, which he got his fancy tigers, the Galaxy something. I can't remember what they are exactly. He's got it written down somewhere, but red fancy tigers, pretty much a really nice line of those. Black fancy tigers, I've got the crystal blacks, I got the tangerine tigers, the yellow King Kongs, and I think that's it. Oh, blue bolts, shadow pandas. So I do got quite a bit of caridinas now, and they're doing good with my well water, which has been awesome. Because I don't have to do anything special. I don't have to add special nothing. I don't even have filter in them. I don't even test my KH or GH. I ain't got to mess with nothing. They're just living and breeding, so that's good. Carla M, and I have made videos on these, so I mean, Y'all need to go back and watch some of my videos. Carla M says, will my Scuds eat my baby CPDs if I breed them in a 10-gallon tank that I have Scuds in? There's definitely potential because CPDs, when they're babies, they do kind of like to hang on like the surface of things, whether it be glass, rock. They stay real low to the surface, and that's the areas and stuff the Scuds would be getting and going to, and there is very good potential for the Scuds to be able to capture the CPD babies. But if you have any bigger fish to go in there and eat them up, that could help you. And or just get another tank, MTS. It's real. Frogs fishing more. Can I use powered calcium carbonate to raise the pH? I mean, it's a calcium carbonate. I don't know what powered means as far as the calcium carbonate. If they like attach the V6 to it or a twin turbo, I don't know. But calcium carbonate will definitely help. Let's see. Scrolling McScrollerson. Huh? Carlos Diaz says, I caught my Florida flagfish spawning with a female Congo tetra. Ever heard of that? So yeah, I've seen cross species like try to breed and stuff. Matter of fact, one of my very first videos on YouTube was one that I made for planedtank.net way back in the day. That's why it says my channel is 11 years old, is because that was way back in the forum days when you had to like go through YouTube just to post something, or like it just became a thing where they started making you do that. You used to be able to attach it straight in, but you know, they never make it easier or better for you. They just make more roundabouts through more doors. But anyways, I had a Golden Wonder male killifish try to have a threesome. Well, not try, he did have a threesome with two female Siamese algae eaters. And that video is in the way back, like my first video. So the weird stuff like that can happen. Could you imagine a Florida flagfish Congo tetra though? That would be awesome. Imagine a Congo tetra with the color and patterning of a Florida flagfish, but with like that Congo tetra tails. Oh man, that would be amazing. I mean, hybridization like that, I'm not a big fan of hybridization, but like that, I don't know. I think that would be pretty cool. And shoot, I would have loved to have a Golden Wonder Siamese algae eater. Philly Cheese Aquatics, what are all the color of male and female pair of shrimp you selling right now? So really, I'm only selling mostly my neocaridinas, my yellows, my blue dreams, and my reds, which they're just like the lines are so legit. Like for me, it's really hard for me to sell many other lines unless I know how stable that line is, because it's hard for me to give you guys like bad genes. I'm an international shrimp judge. I mean, I've judged I don't know how many competitions. I'm wearing a shirt for it, you know, so I don't know. When it comes to me and my brand and my name, I really like to have really high standards on that stuff, and you guys know that, and I feel like it's expected out of me. So I'm really only selling mostly those three lines. I have come out and released like a couple batches of like blue jellies, and then the yellow King Kongs, which can throw yellow King Kong realies, which is pretty wild. But besides that, I'm still working on getting numbers up and working on lineage, seeing which ones are worth it. Because a couple of them I've gotten, I mean, I've had them breed out. They're not really anything to like. I don't think I'd want to sell them to you. So, saying that, I do have some that I do need to focus more on. I think I released some of the Tangerine Tigers too. And some of the Crystal Reds are probably getting close. I want to get them another round before I do start pulling out of them, but Like the shrimp I do offer, oh my god, they're legit. If you ain't never seen them, been working them lines for years and years, 10 years or so. Big D Aquatics, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Always great to see you in here, brother. He's been a huge supporter of the channel. Says, I have Galaxy Pintos. Well, that is awesome. That is awesome. I absolutely love the Galaxy Pintos and all those types. They're beautiful. And the Stardust and whatnots on them. Because you never know. Like those kind of lines, they're not really work. It does take, well, they are work to get like that certain conformity and consistency out of them. But you never know what's going to pop out of those lines too, which is also, I don't know, to me, it's kind of fun as well. Like when I first got the Blue Dreams and lined them out, they were popping all kinds of crazy stuff. And I kind of wish I still had a lot of those mutations they used to pop. Ooh, excuse me. Danikin Aquatics, always great to see you in here. I saw you taking a little road trip. I hope you've been having fun. Was that a pontoon boat I saw you carrying around? You wild man, look like you were having fun, but great to see you in here. It says heading for Madison tomorrow night. It'll be great to be around fish peeps. Oh, in Madison, what's going on in Madison? I'm not sure what that's about, but sounds like a fishy good time. You got like a convention or something going on? Well, always good to see you. Hope you and Danny are well. Mario Valesco says, what tank size would you recommend for prey cocks? I would go for like a 20 long, 20 high. Anything around that age. You can keep them or up that range. If you can keep in a 10-gallon, but I don't know. It's still, I don't know. To me, if we're going to keep fish, it's best to give them some space, you know. Shouldn't always cram them down to their minimum size. All right, Outside in Aquatic says, what is a Xanthic color morph? So a Xanthic color morph, and I'm glad you asked this question. A lot of people just let that stuff ride. They don't ask questions. I love people who ask questions. What is a Xanthic color morph? So a Xanthic color morph is like a yellow mutation that can come out of a fish over time. So it's like a golden morph that can come out. So the Pseudoincisis, the Millennium Orange Albino Rainbow Fish, which is a bright orange fish, that is actually a Xanthic form of the regular Millennium, which is the regular incisis. So, what is some other examples? So, I mean, in guppies, you've seen gold forms. Matter of fact, the golden wonder Kili is also a Xanthic form. So it's like a gold mutation, like a Midas fish that can come out of genetics. It's really kind of wild. I mean, the fact that nature has that within her, and it's like, surprise, you get this golden fish after so many attempts of breeding and just fish to grow out. Like, how cool is that to happen? It's pretty neat. Philly Cheese Aquatic says, what are all the color of milk? Oh, I already read that one. Oh, and as far as male and female pair of shrimp, I always just pretty much sell a group, so you'll get a wide variety of ages and sex. That way it ain't all like brother and sister and getting all the old grandpa. See, a lot of those people will be getting the old big shrimp. Those, you do not know how much life is left in that shrimp. But you get the younger shrimp. I'm not talking about like bitty babies, but get like the younger adults. They're got plenty of time, and also they're usually ready. MSC Aquatic says, any tips to get green water? I've tried several things and haven't worked. Also ever kept Goodeids. So I have kept some Goodeids. They do need space. Best to have space and lines of sights and covers and all kinds of stuff with them, because sometimes they can be more picky with each other, very social, but kind of toxic. Depending on the species, there's a lot of species of the Goodeids. And if you haven't heard of the ALA, I definitely recommend you checking out the American Livebearer Association, which really dives into those kind of fish. It's not like the IFGA where they do fancy guppies. The ALA, the Livebearers, they do more of the like actual Goodeids, the more natural wild type of live bearers instead of the fancy, more designer live bearers. So definitely check that out if you haven't. And then as far as tips on getting green water, break up like some grass or some green material leaves, like fresh leaves, not like brown leaves. You want green stuff to where it'll break up that chlorophyll out into the water. Put it into like a 2-liter bottle or something of the sort or container into the sun on a windowsill and give it some time. As the green stuff breaks down, it will help feed that water column in that green water with the sun. And then that should be able to help give you a start. But to really keep the green water, highlight is really key. You need a lot of light. Okay. But definitely good for Goodeids. Shoot, green water is good for all kinds of stuff. I'm actually having more problems. Now most of my tanks are starting to settle out. Too many of them clearing up. I'm going to have to like get some stuff outside to get myself more green water. But I don't really like to gather my green water from outside. So I don't know. Well, I'm planning on building something out back too. So that'll come in time too. A lot to do. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, softer water will help with green water too. So if you have harder water, it can be harder to grow that green water in. So if you can get more like rainwater, neutral water, I should mention that. That can help you out a lot if you're having issues with it. What are your thoughts on freshwater clams in your aquariums? I mean, they're all right for a moment while you can feed them, but good luck keeping on feeding them. You're going to have to baby feed that thing for however long you decide. It's cold hard truth. So I don't know. I want to recommend them. They're cool, but I want to recommend them for long term. I've tried them out. Erie First says, "Are you a Cessiflora fan?" I do love Cessiflora, but isn't that like I think that's one you can't like ship around and stuff. So I don't actually keep it, but it is a cool plant and it does have a lot of benefits to it. Man, I should not have worked my shoulder out because it is at failure rate. Jack says, just planted a tiger lotus bulb that already has leaves growing. How long did it take for your giant one to send out lily pads? They, I don't know, because it kind of grows compact for quite some time. So I'd say it would probably grow compact. And it also depends on how many water changes you do. You do more frequent water changes, like weekly water changes, you're going to have faster growth than if you're only doing monthly water changes. But saying that, if you were doing like bi-weekly or even monthly water changes, like 3 months, it will stay around compact. And then I would say probably around 6 months, it would start hitting lily pad territory. But once those start going, they go bananas. They go absolutely bananas. And what will happen is they'll root down. You give them enough substrate, they'll root down all over the place, and then they'll bulb out to where it gets to be madness. It's really wild. If some of you guys may have seen my 240 gallon that I used to have at the old house, where I had that red tiger lotus that just went bananas. That thing, when we pulled it out, there's a video back there somewhere of when we pulled it out. Lego, Lucas? Oh, that sucks. Dang old internet. Fish Fam Link says, enjoying the stream. Don't forget to give the thumbs up, Fish Fam. Right on, Fish Fam. Mutter City Aquatics says, how's it going, Lucas? Good. How you been, man? Hope you've been doing well. Holding it down up there in Big D. But, yeah, how have you been doing, Mom? Good to see you in here. Mario Valesco says, what tank size would you... Oh, I went back to that. Huh. I kind of... Let's see. Oh, powdered frogfish. Man, I must have went back way back. How far am I from the bottom here? Oh, I'm not that far. All right, trying to speed scroll my face here. Dennis Engel, have you used Turface? I've seen some very nice results similar to kitty litter. So I personally have not used it, but back in the forum days, that was a big topic, and people absolutely loved it within their planted aquariums, and some really nice aquascapes too. So what it essentially is a very clay-based substrate. It's more compact, so I would add that, like a layer that, really you can add to any tank, a layer that at the bottom, it holds a lot of long-term release nutrients for your plants, and you can cap it with whatever or leave it as is. If you leave it as is, it could, I don't know how cloudy it could get. I have never personally tested it, but you could cap it and use it for long-term release mineralization, big time. Works really well. And that Turface, if you guys don't know what it is, it's what they use around baseball fields. It's that red clayish stuff. A lot better looking than kitty litter, in my opinion. I definitely would not use kitty litter in my tanks. I know many people who have. Personally, not what I would use. There's so many other things. Get that yard sand. Jack says, will the Caridina do well on a gravel substrate? It's not smooth gravel. Yeah, I mean, they do fine on Eco Complete, which is like a lava gravel, which is like sandpaper gravel. So they do all right on that. If they can do good on that, they can do good on any other kind of gravel. A lot of people dog gravel. Believe it or not, you go out into your creeks and whatnot, the only other thing, what you'll find besides mostly sand, is gravel and gravel beds. And there's a lot of plants you can grow on gravel too. A ton of plants that you can grow on gravel. So any of the unusual plants that, like if you guys see my video for unusual floaters, unusual floating plants, not your normal floating plants, all those plants can be grown within just gravel. A lot of the aquarium plants can, especially the mainstream ones. Let's see. Jack says, do you think, and sorry if I'm missing anybody's questions, I'm trying to scroll my best on this. But Jack says, do you think rope fish would be okay with large hill stream loaches? I don't know. That's kind of iffy because rope fish like to stay towards the bottom and they got pretty decent sized mouth. Hill stream loaches can probably find a way to escape and get away, but I can imagine if they're like snuck up on at night, depending on the size of them, I don't know. It's kind of a gamble. Too much of a gamble for me. Bob S, is it Friday already? Damn, I slept right through the week, right? Time traveling. You must have took a trip with Marty McFly. But no, not Friday, but I had some time tonight. I figured I'd share it with you guys and answer some of your guys' questions, since I feel like Friday nights, we never really get all the questions out. There's always so many questions left towards the end, and this is just another opportunity, a better opportunity for us to hang out, because I know a lot of you guys can't make it to the Friday nights either. Chris Resector says, hey Lucas, have you ever thought about adding some African dwarf frogs to the fish barn, maybe some in the pond? You know, they're kind of neat, but I don't know. They are cute, but I don't know. They seem like, I'm trying to refrain on saying something of what I got this weekend, but it definitely wasn't a frog. But they do become kind of a labor to feed and stuff. But I don't know. If I had the right setup and processes, I don't know if I would go with it. But, you know, I could maybe impulse one of those one day. Could see myself doing that. If I was set up right and I knew I could care for them properly, without having to like have the headache of this, which is not a headache, but if I had to try to manage all that, like there's a whole process of progression that I have to go through to get to something like that. But who knows? Who knows? Because I like odd things like that. Especially once I start expanding out here. You know, Franklin, is getting fish off eBay a bad idea? I started off eBay myself personally. When I first started selling was off eBay, and then I still bought once in a while. I'll snag something off eBay if it's something I can't get elsewhere. Obviously, look into the seller. You should always look into the seller. JP Jeffrey says my no planted 20H. My no filter planted 20 high crashed about after 6 months, I believe, from over bioload. You can't have over bioload. Creek substrate turned black. Do I need to replace my substrate to reset? Thanks, Lucas. Did something potentially die in there? So usually if something turns black, that's like a necrosis of some sort, which, I mean, for it to naturally do that, I have never personally seen it. Coming from a creek, though, if you would have just pulled it out of a creek, I don't know what kind of microorganisms or what could have been living in there to where it would die and cause that necrosis bacteria to show up more. And usually that necrosis probably came from just the crash of like just bad water, bad bioload. And this is why I don't really recommend just going and grabbing your creek dirt and throwing it in there. But you can't have like a over detritus like bioload or over beneficial bacteria bioload. That just doesn't happen. I've seen that stuff stack up to where it becomes the substrate, and honestly, it's just new dirt. It turns into new dirt over time. If you guys look at the cycle of dirt and how dirt becomes dirt, it would make a lot of sense. But as far as what caused that crash and that necrosis black stuff, it's hard to answer. But yeah, I don't know. I would start with some new substrate and probably not get it from the creek. Maybe get it from, like, you can go down towards the creek, but get it to where the creek doesn't really go. Go above the creek where the dry stuff is. That's what you really want. That way you don't get like all the negative bacteria or other negative parasites or anything like that. That's why we quarantine stuff. Because believe it or not, I know nature's good, nature's great, but honestly, it's still dog eat dog world out there. We didn't make it this way. Mosquitoes will bite, ticks will bite, snakes will bite. Like birds will eat fish, bugs will eat bugs. And there are negative things out there if we pull into the wild. That's why biosecurity is a thing in the aquarium hobby. Let me just say that. Brock N says, I keep pond water in jars with plants growing out. I have a 2-gallon jar with deep substrate and want neo shrimp. Will they be happy? How many should I have? So, 2-gallon jars with deep and you want neo shrimp with 2-gallon jars. I don't know how big your 2-gallon jars are. Hopefully you got some decent surface area. I mean, more surface area you have instead of like if you have a 2-gallon like this or a 2-gallon like this, you know. I would say I would just start with like 2 or 3 and then let them grow out to their population. They'll figure it out. Excuse me. Or maybe even looking to getting some ostracods or scuds and stuff. Those are cool too. Gerald the Jagger. Jagger. I bought 20 shrimp from somebody off Facebook. It looks like they might all be males. Can I introduce a couple of females or a ratio of males and females important? A ratio of males and females does kind of help because if you have like 20 males and like only 2 females, those females can probably get harassed to a point where they can kill her. Sad. So sad. Hey everyone, just purchased Pro Weed. How long should I leave the light on? So, awesome job on purchasing Pro Weed. I don't know if you got it from me, but if you did, thank you. And best thing to do is to leave your light on for like 6 to 8 hours is a good range. It doesn't really need a whole lot. It doesn't need a whole strong light either. It's more of a moderate light kind of plant, but absolutely love Pro Weed, one of my favorites. You can either float or plant it. You can even escape it. I've got some really gnarly back in the day Pro Weed tanks from when I used to mess with it a lot. I still have some, but I usually sell it before it really goes too far. You got it scattered here and there. It's kind of slower growing if you're not doing water changes too. It likes its water changes. Console says, that's funny, nice name. I'm starting mutt guppies in my garage. In your experience, what temperature range should I be shooting for? Thanks, LRB. I mean, really anything between 72, 78 is pretty comfortable for them. Of course, they could go from like 68 to 100. But I would say since it's in your garage, that's probably the comfortable level. Because say if you did want to keep it up at 86 or 82 or 80, you got to think your whole garage is going to be that hot. And that garage, if it's connected to your house, especially if it's underneath it, if you got a 2-story or whatever, all that heat's going to raise up, and then you're just going to be sweating all the time. You're not going to want to be in there as much. But if you make it comfortable for yourself as well, and still comfortable enough for the fish to breed, all the better for your experiences. Ephrain 422 says, any info on hypercentrus? Please, mini snowball plecos to be specific. So I haven't messed with the plecos as much. One thing I do know that's important when breeding out plecos is not to give them too big of a cave. Because what happens is when plecos go to breed in caves, they want to keep their fins up on the side. If they can't like keep their fins like compressed to it, then they can't like keep either the female out or in. So they have to be able to have that right fit for their fins to just like be able to spread enough, but not too far, to keep the female in or out. So as long as you think about that, set that water right. If you're with most plecos, especially if you're in neutral territory of water, then you'll definitely not have any issues with them. And yeah, that cave part's very important. Ultramagnetic says, do you still use EcoComplete? Does it hold more beneficial bacteria than sand? So it does hold more beneficial bacteria than sand, and it does like have more breathability to it. But I don't really like how harsh it is as far as like being sandpaper substrate dang near. So I don't know. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with it a little bit, and it's kind of the best black backdrop kind of substrate I really have enjoyed. So I don't know, it's tough. But I still do use it. I don't know if I'll ever buy any more of it again, because I mean, I've got my yard sand now. And free is the best price for me right now. Because I think when I do that water 80-gallon fry rack tank thing that I've got all those tanks for, I really would like to have a water change system set up for them, since it's going to be through my fry and turning water over to grow them faster. Which I still got to be careful. I'm not like trying to turn over too much water to where I'm sterilizing it. Even though I've got that well water and that stuff's already biologically sound by the time it comes in. So I could do that actually. We'll see. But anyways, I gotta save money for that because that's a lot of parts and pieces. Anytime you got a 80 times anything, especially if you got multiple parts, woo, it gets salty real quick. Craig Campbell says, is it possible to mix Mabuna with convicts? I have no clue, Craig. So hopefully, if Danikin Aquatics is in here, I know he would know. I'm sure there is somebody in here who would know the answer to that question, but I personally do not know. And I am at the bottom of the chat, so if you had a question, that's where I'm at, or if I missed yours and you want to ask again, that is the best spot. Or, well, we're at an hour mark. That was just right on time almost. Well, not really. I don't know. It's up to you guys. Let's see. There's 100 of you guys in here. I don't know. You guys want more time? Not in a big rush. I do want some back team, though. I got bit by a mosquito. Best thing I have found to help with mosquito bites, if I don't use much for like medication or meds or anything, but I will use this if I get bit by a mosquito bite, because God, I don't like to sit there and itch all the time. Fire ants get me bad enough down here. All right, any last questions before I hop off here? If not, I'm not seeing any, so. Oh, I have been in top chat this whole time. Lady LRB asked me if I was. I didn't even recognize it. Oh, glad to see you in here, Chris. See, you made it towards the end. How are those Florida mosquitoes? So last year wasn't really bad. This year there's a bit more. I was at my neighbor's house. I feel like they go mostly towards his house. They don't really come here as much. Thank God. Which I need to share that with you guys over there, because I've kind of given the neighbor MTS. He's got it bad. He's been building racks and putting up tanks. I just got back from there today and was looking at his setup and systems. Members, you guys will be getting a little sneak peek of that this weekend. So if you're members, you'll get to be able to see a little bit of the neighbor's rack. He's got a mighty fine rack, a few of them, and it's really cool that him and his dad as well is just, they're really into it. And they actually went to the club meeting with me last Saturday, and they were just having a good old time, and it was so fun to see. Ultra Magnetic says, what lighting are you using these days? How many hours on? So mine run way too long. Mine run almost like 10 hours. Yeah, about 10 hours. But that's mostly because I'm working in here, and there's a lot to do. But if you only have like so many tanks, you're better off running, like I mentioned, 6 to 8 hours, not so long. And these lights, really, they're terrible. I mean, they work pretty good, and you could probably grow the heck out of stuff, especially if you were on your water changes and maintenance, but it's a lot of light for a lot of my tanks, so I do grow a lot of algae out of them. I always like the ones off of eBay that you could get. Those aqua neats and fowlers and stuff. They're always a good price point. But of course, like, if you want to spend the big bucks, those things definitely do good work too. There's a lot of lighting options, but I'll tell you, one of my favorite all-time lightings, and if I could do it in my fish room, and I'm not sure how, because I'm not an electrician, but I'm sure it wouldn't be that hard, but I would like to piggyback incandescent, like screw-in lights throughout my racks, to where I had the compact fluorescent bulbs, those little screwy ones, the corky ones, look like pigtails. Those are where it's at. Like, there's so much hidden within those, because they actually emit a lot of radiation, which the sun emits a radiation. These LEDs don't do it as much. And yeah, those things work really good. Those would be the best compared to T5 high outputs. So back in the day, we used to use the T5 high outputs for like our like really nice Dutch style aquascapes. And I did find somebody not long ago doing some nice Dutch styles, which is cool to see some of those because you don't see them as often anymore. Which is like nothing but plant. It's like a aquascape, but like no hardscape. It's just beautiful plants. Love those. I love those. I probably will end up doing one eventually once I get settled and all that stuff. Because I got the CO2 tanks and all that. But anyways, where was I going with that? Oh, the T5 high outputs. If you could get a blend between the 5600K, the red bulb, and the blue 6500K, you can actually grow some really wild stuff out of T5 high outputs to where you grow plants that look like you would have never seen them ever before. So like, for instance, the Hygrophila corymbosa, you put that under the blue and red spectrum of a T5, you get like that cherry that comes out of it. It'll get like yellow and the gold leaves and the cherry red look out of it. Because when you actually, a lot of people don't realize what a lot of plants look like compared to LED, compared to like a fluorescent. The growth is different. A lot of people in the hobby do not realize this because they've never experienced it, but the growth compared what we used to grow with those old expensive bulbs and stuff, was so much more lush and crazier than what you see a lot of people grow now with LEDs. Just because I think a lot of it has to do with the radiation. And you can get those from the CFLs. So that's a really good lighting tip for y'all if you guys ever want to mess with that kind of stuff. Let's see. Joshua Abshire says, do you sell submerged or immersed Pennywort? Does it melt like other plants when transitioned from immersed to submerged? So it's grown submerged, but so it's a bit of both actually. It's kind of, I will show you. Since we're already over the hour mark, we may get a little Lego-y Lucas, but let's see what happens here. Because I don't know how much longer I'll be on here. So if you look here, I'm not going to go fully in there. See how it's out of the water, but it's in the water? It's a bit of both. Like, I don't really sell out the stuff that's like hanging out because I like the stuff that hangs out, because then you get like this, which I love this, where it just hangs down and out. Sometimes it dries up, it doesn't always take. Like recently I picked some up because just the humidity or just wind blowing or fan or whatever. What about par 38 LED bulbs? I mean, they'll grow, but they ain't gonna grow like the fluorescent things. It doesn't matter what kind of LEDs you have to compare against fluorescent. But you know, you can grow with them. You can grow with a lot of light. Matter of fact, we overlight a lot of our plants. For instance, look at these. These are just ambient lit. I'm just using the ambient light coming off of these. Look how much is in this one. I don't know. I've just recently released this video on my Guppy rack. And I did change it a bit of what was on this rack, which I should have updated you guys, but I topped this off with some of the sand dirt. I'm not a big fan of this rock because I think I finally found a rock I don't like. And I think it's because it's got this mica on it, which if these fish are nipping on and whatnot, I think it can cause them problems. It's the only thing that makes sense with some things I was dealing with in this tank. But this looks crazy because you could actually see all the way through this tank. So that volcano guppy looks like it's in with these guppies. Eventually these will be different. I want to get some of my lime rock put in there, which is what all these inler tanks are full of. Some of you guys may have seen my short, but that'll be a lot better for them. I did give them a calcium rock to graze on too, but yeah, good old fish tanks. Let's see here. Does elephant ear plants need soil if growing in outdoor tub? I don't know. I've never tried elephant ear in the water. Chris Trapp says you do have that. Do you have a Daphnia tank, LRB? So I don't have like a dedicated Daphnia tank. What happens is I've always got Daphnia in a tank somewhere, and I will split it off to like ones that start turning green, so I can musical fish the fish I'm breeding out of this tank, which those are orange rice fish in there right now, and they've actually got babies in there with themselves. They can be kind of community breeding, so I haven't been disturbing them. But all I would do is throw like a few of the Daphnia I could find, let them go bananas in there. But there is one shrimp tank that I have that does usually consistently always have Daphnia, but there's Daphnia in there, there's Daphnia there, and there. I don't know. There was some in here, but I've got enough baby fish in here right now. You can't really see them very well. There's a ton of rainbow fish. The Pagai, Chilnothernia fasciata that I got from Gary. There's a bunch of babies in there. They're getting bigger. Oh, there's that mystery snail. Bunch of shrimps. But when you got like the ambient light, you don't have that issue with the algae so much. I mean, how cool is that? You can see all the way down it. There's some of them magical guppies too. I've got them split out all over. But look, this is, I would say, a couple months old. 2-3 months old? I don't know. I can't remember. I do so much. But I can still see it crystal clear. Absolutely no maintenance. Absolutely no water changes. I did recently top everything off. But talk about maintenance free. This is what I try to share with you guys too, because if we can just enjoy our aquariums instead of having to worry about maintenance, work. We work enough. We want to enjoy life. We want to enjoy these things. And who knows, this may inspire somebody to get into the conservation of these fish. Without this hobby, we wouldn't have as many fish conserved for people who do muck up the wild and screw things up. But look at this Taiwan lily. This is another thing I'm thinking about doing. Taking all this Taiwan, not all that Taiwan lily, but I'm about over this pogo stemmon in the pond. Because, you know, it breaks up a lot of the line of sights of view. And it's just going bananas in here. I threw a couple of those Taiwan lilies in here. And it must have felt like it was getting attacked because it just started just exploding. This is all pogo stemmon stellata. But it just all started exploding all over the place. That was just whole mat of algae over there just the other day. I pulled it out. But I think I'm going to take a lot of that out and then put the Taiwan lily in there. What do you guys think? I don't think they care. No, I think it'll be cool because then I can see all the way like down in there. We'll definitely leave the crib in there. And then we'll have stuff where they can swim up underneath. I think, well, I don't know. There's so many small fish in there. Like I've got schools of CPDs, lime green endlers, because there's so many different types of fish in here because it's like my retirement hodgepodge. Or like, all right, I don't really have space for you. Oh, excuse me. Or I got that like one goofy fish. I like to throw my goofy fish in here because, I don't know, I don't like to kill on coal. I'm a softie. So they get a nice home. But this is the tank the thumbnail was, for those who were wondering. It's Bacopa Carolina. That's a crystal red caridina. And how Lego-y Lucas are we? Do you breed Synodontis lucipennis? So this is actually a, well, right there, you see him. See that head popping out of there? There's the breeding trap for them. Now, they get mad whenever I pull out of the breeding trap, so it's like catch them when you can kind of thing, because I can't always see down and through it because this is just a jungle. So I got to be real selective about when I choose to collect the eggs. But I do breed them. I do have many breeding videos on them as well. Matter of fact, this tank will be dedicated to Synodontis lucipennis, to where it's an awesome school of sharks of them and stuff. Without hands, not bad image. Okay. I gotta quit doing that with my hands, but I got like these guys waiting. I got a few others. We'll come back. Oh, here they are. Dun, 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 dun. Do you sell Synodontis? I mean, if I had them available, I would. I mean, I used to when I did. Once I get to focusing, once I get more of this place built, I can focus on breeding more of this stuff for you guys. And what's cool about these Synodontis is you can breed for certain mutations and traits and stuff. Oh yeah, you see a lot of them coming out now. But see how they got a lot of white on them with the spots there? Pretty sweet. I kind of was keeping them for those. I've bred thousands of those things. There's actually some more down in here somewhere. My clown killies. They're hiding. Anyway, those are some fish. Oh, this is cool. These really rare blue eye rice fish. I think I made a video on these where I've been collecting them. See how many of the small young are living with the adults? But it's so hard to pull the algae out of here because it is just littered, absolutely littered with eggs. See those little black dots? Tiny little speckled dots, those are little eggs. Just everywhere. Rainbow tiger antlers. But I was going to do my cichlids here. Oh, man. I don't know. Rice fish. Definitely going to keep my Julia chromis. I've got these fairy cichlids still. I need to do a video about the cichlids because many of you guys were like, oh, you can't do cichlids and no filters. Well, you can do a lot of the cichlids and no filter. Matter of fact, look at this is where my Coddle Punctatus main group is. And there's a ton of them that have been living in here. Multi-generational. Planted. Some old man eye crap. Get some driftwood in there. Cool little fish, but you know, they're always so shy. Look how that one's all colored up. You ever see a sea punk look like that? I'm guessing that's Big Daddy sea punk. See, this is how you know that it's like real natural. You just start getting colorations and behaviors and things that you will not see in filter sterile types of environments. Just because things are just different for them. I don't know what it is. But there's something about Mother Nature. Ain't that right, guys? All right. They do look like little sharks. Can we just get can we just get 25 more likes, please? Asked Carla. Thanks for asking that, Carla. Chris Trapp says, Lucas, do you know of any allelopathic plants where plants kill the other plants? So, like, back in the day, I could probably answer that a little bit easier. But now it's so tough. Like, I don't really remember, dude. I've honestly forgot, like, a lot of things I've learned. There was Gothic Aquatics on Instagram the other day who was giving me a shout out because he watched one of my old Shelly videos. And I had put endlers in with the Shellys and it made them more comfortable. And I'm like, dude, I appreciate you making this post because I forgot about it. And my Shelly's in this 75-gallon, which is actually behind these guys, have been a real because I just can't catch them. They're never out. They're still not. I like fish that are like come up to you like these guys. What's up, buddies? I love these guys. Look at them wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Look at them. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Food. Like, you are the food master. Feed me. All right. How big do mascara barbs need to be sexing? I don't know. That's a really good question. I could not honestly tell you. I would guess a couple years. But I don't know. Maybe because it took me so long to figure out a good way to breed them. and how to collect their eggs to where I didn't have them young enough to know. Now there is 4, oh yeah, let me see here. Oh, they just start dropping in that corner. They might pop back up, but there is 4 really young ones that were from when these guys bred out earlier in here. So I do have some young ones to mess with and try. Same with down here, but I got to make sure they're even assimilus barbs. And the only reason why this tank looks so bad is I haven't scraped the front of it. If I were to scrape the front of that, the tank would look a lot cooler. Okay, just one more fish. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I appreciate that. Just one more fish. Says, hey, LRB, just checking in. Keep on keeping on. Love what you're doing. Thank you. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And that's all I know what to do is keep on keeping on. If I wasn't, I don't know. It'd be awful weird. All right, I guess we just keep looking at these guys while I ramble just for a little bit longer. Dang, that last half hour has gone by fast. See, that's another thing too, is you guys, you know, trying to be an editor, trying to be a businessman, trying to be a marketer, trying to be whatever else. I got to be extra family man, everything else. We're just getting work done. Try imagining trying to get work done around this many aquariums. Talk about a space for distraction. It's very easy to get distracted in here, and that's why that half hour really probably flew by real fast for me. Jack says, ever kept freshwater soles? My LFS has some available. I'm really interested in keeping them, only worried they'll uproot plants. So I personally have not kept them. Supposedly you can catch them up around here from what my neighbor. Anyways, I think I'm back. Well, I appreciate you guys all watching, all hanging out. And I hope this was informative for you guys. It's already probably a long video for some of you, but thank you. And if I missed your question, always feel free to throw it down in the comments. I'll get to it when I can. And hope you all have a great one. And thank you so much for joining. Until next time, peace. Have a great one. Do 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 do.